Call meeting to order. A motion for the adoption of the agenda, and we do have a modification to the agenda to add sewer connection issue to the agenda that requires input of council. Second. Question. All in favor? Disclosure of conflict of interest. And presentation. Climate change adaptation and mitigation plans, presentation.
Yes, thank you. So good evening, everybody. My name is Jihad Alzheimer. I'm with Gemtech. Been with Gemtech for 4 years. You manage the Municipal Services Unit. We conduct studies such as this one and asset management plans and the wide suite of studies. And the first point of contact for municipalities with Gemtech. We have utility folks, geotechnical, civil, material testing, you name it. So tonight we're going to be presenting the climate change adaptation mitigation plan, and I'm going to be brief, respecting your time. And I want to point out that the report that was sent with your agenda, it was a draft. So we've since added to it and adjusted information about the municipality itself and about the methodology.
If you just want to give me tell me when to click, I'll look for it. I'll be very attentive.
So the purpose and the scope is, I guess, to have to prepare Harvey for climate change impacts and focus on the infrastructure, the community health, natural assets, and community preparedness in general. I know you have an EMO plan, and that's great. So this complements that. And to align your efforts with the provincial and federal efforts. As you know, there's a push now by the feds in the province to get every community have their climate change adaptation plan and net zero plans, so on and so forth. In terms of risks for Harvey, we can identify 5 primary risks, and we present them in an order of priority here. Heat-related risk, rising number of hot days, basically. The past summer was a good example. Wildfire risk, longer fire season, and poor air, which results in poor air quality when there's a fire and smoke, obviously. And also we witnessed that this past summer. Wind events, which cause power and infrastructure damage. And there's biological risks. And in your case, you have 5 beautiful water bodies. So those would be impacted by biological risks as well, and invasive species. And last but not least, heavy rain precipitation leading to flooding. It's localized in Harvey. You're one of the lucky communities that do not have a wide area to flood, but it's still the case in some locations. So we'll go over each of these hazards one at a time, starting with the rising temperatures. As you can see, the projected statistics indicate that doubling the average temperature from 5.2 to 11.8 by the end of the century. And the number of hot days where the temperatures are higher than 30 degrees Celsius are multiplied by 8, basically. It was like from 7 to 54 on average per year. So that's quite a difference. In terms of wildfire, I go hand in hand with dry weather and heat, I guess. But there are 2 indicators there. The first indicator on the right-hand side is the mean fire season. It's increasing by an average of 4 days every 10 years. So by the end of the century, again, we're going from 200 to 240 some days. The other indicator is the fire weather index, and that's the graph on the left-hand side. And we're going from very high to extreme, or sorry, from high to extreme. Right now, we're in the 2011 to 2040. We're around 38, and that's labeled very high or at the very very tip of height, and we're going to extreme by the end of the century. So that's a significant threat to the community, such as Harvey, where you have lots of landscape and greenery. In terms of wind data, they're the hardest to forecast because of the lack of historical data. But one thing we can say is that the ocean is warming in the Gulf of Maine, and we're witnessing more frequent storms and storm warnings and increased rainfall extremes as well. All that indicating and leading to one direction, the risk is higher. Statistically, at early 60s, we had Hurricane Guinea. After that, 45 years, we had about 8 hurricanes, almost average one every 2 years. And the names are listed below. You probably remember Arthur and Fiona lately. In terms of biological associated hazards, there's a large suite of animal and aquatic plants and animals. The list is the right-hand side. Then there's terrestrial plants, obviously, large suite of those as well. Pests and terrestrial wildlife, pigs and rabbits. I looked into Turkey. Apparently it's native, so it's not considered invasive species. It's just making a reappearance, but it was here from before, and it's coming back. So yeah, I'm sure you're familiar with some of those hazards. I didn't know that goldfish was an invasive species, but sure enough, it is one of the considered invasive species. All right, then the last hazard we're going to talk about is increased precipitation. And it's good after a drought, but the issue is it's increasing over the years. So average 10% increase in precipitation levels by the end of the century. And also the intensity when rain comes down, like the right-hand side graph shows the 3-day precipitation levels. Those are increasing as well, but to the tune of 11% as well. So in a period of 3 days, the amount of rain we're getting is more intense. But this is what causes the damage and the flooding and the washout of roads and stress the culverts and whatnot. In terms of objectives and items and actions, the objectives listed on the left-hand side: safeguard public health and vulnerable residents, strengthen infrastructure and the natural assets you have, wetlands, forests, lakes, so on. Support the economic and community resilience, and build local capacity and governance partnerships, and that's very important. So this is really at a high level is what the objectives of a climate change adaptation mitigation plan would be. In terms of actions, the report has a table with more details on that, and you can see it in more detail. But basically, we've listed a few here for examples. Establish cooling and clean air shelters, and that doesn't have to be always be municipally owned assets. It can be in partnership with the community groups or another level of government if they have a building suitable for that. Upgrading culverts and roadside ditches. I know you don't own roads and maintain them, but in the future, if that happens, that's something to keep an eye on, and you can advocate EI to and address those issues as well. Wildfire preparedness and education. It's very important. A lot of wildfires are created by humans, unfortunately. Expand tick and pest monitoring and develop a volunteer climate ambassador network. I'm sure there's a lot of folks here that would care about their community and their natural assets and passionate about maintaining the lake health, especially those who have cottages around it, enjoy the lake. So it's there's an opportunity to have this volunteer-based network of ambassadors. For implementation as well, there's more details in the report, but I guess some of these action items can be done in short term, other medium and long term items. And you always need some leadership obviously it's gonna be by council and staff and Capital Region Service Commission as well. Your EMO team and the community partners. It's good to keep a finger on the pulse and check annually on the progress. What was interesting, an interesting outcome from the online survey we conducted and the open house for the community that EMO groups and members of council attended is that there is support from the community for investment in action that's towards climate change. So folks were supportive, even if it means at least according to the survey, even if it means there's a increase in the tax for these purposes. So it's interesting to see. To conclude, I guess, climate change is affecting everybody. Harvey is no exception, I guess. Leadership is very important, and community engagement is also very key to the success of any plan. And the next steps, like any plan, is to adopt it, embrace it, and pathfind for some funding opportunities from other levels of government to implement some of the actions and advocate for your community. And then, like I mentioned earlier, keep your finger on the pulse and monitor how you're making out. So that's in a nutshell. I mean, there's a lot more details in the report, but this in a nutshell is what the climate hazards are and what some actions that you may choose to. If you're happy with what you've what's presented, we can finalize this plan. And we're still open for input from council and happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Yes? I guess we need to take some time to review it a little more maybe and then to adopt it and to, as we do with our strategic plan and our other plans, to integrate it into our decision-making processes so that we're moving everything forward. We have some activities that have started that will be helpful in moving the climate change adaptation plan forward. We're doing some work in the invasive species side. We have a warming but not breathing or clear air shelter yet, but we have a warming shelter. And we are doing some work on the fire side of mitigation of fire there. So we're weaving the pieces in as we go, and this will guide us as to where those important pieces are as we're making decisions. And that's where all of our plans are. Well, I guess that's what makes them important. That's what makes them planned.
I'll send I can send Sean the revised version of the plan. Updated, not much difference, or the crux of the meat is the same basically, but it's more complete. So I'll send it to you this evening and you may circulate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us and your partnership with us.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
As always, you're welcome to stay.
I have a little bit of a drive ahead, so let you conduct your business and
Thank you. Thanks.
Good night.
Okay, correspondence. Three items there, we'll have a discussion on one of them, I guess.
You do have the public safety memo. Was there anything you wanted to cover on that one specifically? There's a
No,
lot of communities copied on that one, but it is in the package for council.
the municipal request for non-EMHP priorities, so that's basically DTI we received a letter from DTI indicating that they would accept recommendations from us for the new 3-year plan starting in 2027. So it's a challenge for us as a community, but a privilege for us as a community to have input to the 3-year plan for DTI. But it's important that if we're going to do it, that we think about what our priorities are. It's an opportunity to get a few winners to the top of the list and do that. So my suggestion is that, council consider a working group that would do some actual on the road, looking around at our community and saying, if we were able to choose an area to put at the top of our list and second on our list and third on our list, where would it be and what part of that highway, I think, becomes somewhat important as well. So it's not a simple exercise of just saying, well, fix up Route 3. We would have to know something about what stretch of Route 3, how many kilometers in a certain area, or 105, or where issues are. So that's as far as Sean and I have talked it through, and I guess some feedback from council would be.
I think it's great to have the dialogue and the ability to offer some advice. Don't know where the budget comes in for us to consider. I mean, it's great to say, do this, but we're not qualified. I can't look at the job and say, well, that's
No,
10.3, but it's just, I don't know what kind of metrics go with this. And the other thing that came to my mind is current 3-year plans. I think we can go see, right?
Yes, we can.
We want, the work group would want to be very familiar with current 3-year plans, so that you're not wasting time chasing something that's slated to be done already.
Right.
It's fantastic.
it's, you're right. I mean, if we were, city of St. John and had that privilege, we would organize our engineering department to
Right.
and do some testing. We could do that. But I think that if a group were willing to spend some time on the road, looking at our, it's, I think there has to be some priority for Route 3 and for 105, particularly because they're the kind of major pieces that we have. 2 will get taken care of. And so, or should get taken care of. It did this year. So, but I don't know from Brockway to the Scales, there's a lot, you know, we wouldn't be saying put all of Route 3 on. So,
I think Brockway itself is supposed to be done next year. I've heard. We've heard that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the part that needs it.
Working to that.
so is it, I mean, the 3-year plan, current one is there.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah, and that's what I think it's on there.
Yeah,
It was supposed to be, I think, this year, but they pushed it back for.
I'm not sure what the one of five, I think it was on there or not, but it definitely has been talked about for quite some time, so there's quite a stretch there, like, I mean, we're talking from the Scales, at least, or the Bridge, Long Creek Bridge. Up to Jewish Creek there, or whatever, pretty well that whole.
I'm through the whole section of labor, I'm so distracted by all the work at the pickleball court. Pennies, that I didn't pay attention to the road, they were driving hard today.
Really?
Oh, it was nice to see. I think it's great if you can strike working group. Put some miles on, and take a look at, and chat in the community and take a look at what we perceive as being priorities outside of the current 3-year plan. It might be a great time to bring that in the next time that our friends from GTI attend one of our meetings. And we could maybe bounce some of this off that group ahead of time as
Yes.
a sounding board, because we might say, geez, you know, this section is a high priority, and they might look at that quickly and say, no, for whatever reason, you should focus over here. This is slated for a project on another job or whatever, but just, we have that mechanism when we chat with BTI, we might as well leverage it.
There didn't seem to be, in the letter, there isn't a timeline specific. I would assume that, we're talking about no later than, say, the end of January, by having our priorities here. That lets them start to work it into the budget for 2026. but it's the 2027 plan, so. That would be the latest I would think that we would want to be doing it. So who has some interest?
Who's the road guy?
So, so we have,
I travel.
Ron and Andrew and Randy.
I travel Route 3 quite regularly.
willing to, and input from anyone, I guess I would say, but, so we'll put together a really quick, terms of reference for that group and, I'm sure, but I say, getting out, to me, I would have to get out on the road and drive it
Yeah, yeah.
and, see, and to identify the stretches that you also, I guess, have to be thinking about what's most likely to happen if we make a request. And then to have that as Council Chesser said, when we come back and meet with DTI and say, does this make any sense? They're not gonna say, yes, we'll do all of that, but
No, be reviewed and looked at.
An example might be like I might say, geez, something has to be done on the Cork Road or this culvert or whatever. And they may come back and say, no, that's a separate program. That's a gravel road program. So I just think we don't want to waste any of our choices. We should vet it with these guys first.
okay. So we, I don't believe we need a motion to get that working group. So your hand was up first. So it looks like we're gonna chair that group.
So I can just select my few people now.
Well,
We have four other counselors in the room here.
Andrew and Sean are going with you now.
And two that travel as much time as I do.
Yeah.
I do all talking. I don't have to do
I think
anything.
we got- No one said that.
So that's how you do it.
We all travel,
Yeah.
between three with.
Night driving. is
Cover a lot of
included,
the,
so.
travel a lot of it on a regular day.
Yeah,
So,
sure. Okay, so remember state service at Harvey Elementary School, November 9th at 1 P.M. And if you're available, I will be there. They do it inside of the elementary school now. For those of you that may not be aware, there was that the RCMP had a training exercise at the elementary school on the weekend. So not everyone, at the school knew. It wasn't that the neighbors actually knew. So when they have things that look like weapons out in the elementary school on a Saturday afternoon, it sometimes causes some.
And raise an eyebrow.
We went through it and it's all okay. CAO update, projects.
Updates for council and then a more detailed update on HMCC here. First and foremost, recreation and instruction, infrastructure updates, so paving prep work, you just mentioned that Fens Lake George is well underway, which is a good step forward for the new community pickleball court. And we're now coordinating advance, we're trying to advance the fence installation for the court itself. But we've been in discussion with a local contractor to secure the perimeter, and Billions has actually stepped up and are gonna offer some construction fencing to protect the area as it gets installed for us, no charge to the community, so we're excited for Dunham's partnership in this. The recreation director was just giving me an update on that in advance of this meeting, so we're pretty excited for Dunham's. And in addition, we have all but in writing secured playground grants for the same location through RDC in Prince William, so we're looking to optimistically install that playground, the same location with the pickleball courts that would enable us to have the new court, dog park and playground before Christmas. So we're excited about that out there at that location. Similarly on paving, you may have noticed we do have some construction going on at what we call the old fire hall, but now looks pretty new. Some paving in front of the driveway. There is some tanks there for monitoring and some pretty nasty humps when you're trying to back equipment in. And we've been in negotiations with Irving, who's responsible for some of that remediation work there, and they're doing this paving for us, and that site prep's underway at no charge to Harvey Road community, so we're excited to get this done. Fire department, was it paid today?
Paid now.
Oh, nice. This is on. So, an update, it's been paid. I don't know if were they paving when you drove by, fence? Because it's the same company doing both jobs. Okay, great. Perfect. All right, moving along. This is old news now. Also, we're looking to amend, just as a heads up, the future Cherry Mountain subdivision from what's now both agricultural and rural to rural for future housing. So November's council meeting will ask for a motion for a public hearing in December. So as part of just kind of the rezoning motions, we've gone through a few of those this year, but it's just advanced work. Again, no decisions have been made on housing or anything like that, but it is a piece of work we need to do in preparation for the future. Financial and utility updates. So Department of Local Government has reviewed and approved our prior council approved 2025-2026 utility budgets. And just good feedback all around from the province as the work council did on that budget. So we're pleased with that. Separately from the prior update, RDC has confirmed a 40% funding contribution to the new doors that are going on the front of this building. That's late breaking. We've been lobbying for any funds other communities can't spend. We're trying to sort of pull into Harvey, and that was one of the funds we're happy for, and that will contribute to and stack on top of the Inclusive Communities grant that we previously awarded the project here. Around community and business engagement, we did have 4 local business owners join the municipal clerk in Newfoundland for GMIS Activate last week. So we're happy with their engagement and looking to continue in the vein of tourism and economic development for the community. So there'll be more updates on that in the future. And then public safety and our new RCMP commanding officer who we'll have in a future council meeting. He is the new commanding officer for the Harvey detachment. He'll be joining the EMO committee. I know the EMO committee has been asking for representation, so we're excited. One, to have him new to the force, new representing the community, and then new to the EMO committee and having the RCMP represent. So more as bringing him in future meetings to meet council. But those are the updates for this week. Happy to answer any questions.
Where did the detachment?
Well, the Harvey area that he's responsible for. I don't know if detachment would be the right term.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not that lucky.
I was wondering. I know this couple. I mean, the start of that building? No.
I believe he's at St. Stephen.
St. Stephen.
Yeah.
He's the new representative that goes to council.
The same person is still at the former somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on to the 5 areas now where we have some discussion and recommendation, the HMCC ownership transfer and transition update.
And are you gonna do the sewer connection?
Oh, yes.
First? Since we did a manage with that. So some background, let me see if I can pull this up here. Background for council. So the Department of Health recently alerted the municipality to non-compliance, an issue involving 2 properties, same owner on Charlie Little Road. The details are here in the package. Following the complaint investigation, the public health inspector confirmed that both properties are not connected to the municipal sewer system, despite connection points being available directly in front of each lot. The Department of Health also advised of the current wastewater setup at these sites, which involves manually emptying wastewater into an unapproved concrete tank, poses potential health risks to the community groundwater and the Harvey Lake ecosystem if it's left unaddressed. The issue was referred to us here at the municipality for enforcement, as the authority for the connection requirement falls with Harvey Rural Community Sewage bylaw number 2020-02. In section 10.1 of the sewerage bylaw 2020-02, it stipulates that council by resolution must instruct the clerk to serve notice to any property owner who has not applied with the bylaws connection requirements. Section 10.2 further requires such notice, specify the action to be taken in this case connecting to the municipal sewer system in a set defined timeline for compliance. As such, before we can issue a formal order of notice, the landowner council must first pass a resolution directing the clerk to serve notice in accordance with the bylaw. So for our bylaw enforcement, we do use the Regional Service Commission. So they are prepared with this package, awaiting sort of council's direction. So We've talked to them and they're gonna assist with drafting the final letter of notice and delivering that in person by a bylaw enforcement officer on behalf of council. So the intent of the notice will be a requirement that the landowner connect to both properties. We do believe and talk with the Department of Health that they did locate both connection points. To the sewer system within 60 days. So failure to comply within that time frame may result in enforcement of actions permitted under the bylaw, including a potential remediation by the municipality with costs recoverable from the property owner. Given the findings from the Department of Health and the identified risks to local groundwater and surface water, prompt action is recommended to ensure the municipality meets its obligations to safeguard public health and the environments. We do have the recommendation, again, we're in committee, so we can't do this motion right now. But we do want to amend the special meeting following this, and this would be one of the actions that we look for council to take and direct staff so that we could work to resolve this file on behalf of the community.
There are full of, I guess, points for discussion in this that you should be aware of, and one is the connections were put on the line to the properties when the line was run. And they chose not to put the tank in at that time. So it means that the owners will be required to pay the full cost of the tank. So, and it's not an inexpensive installation. It's the model they have, I don't really familiar with it on the back of the lake, but they have a tank where everything comes in and then the gray water comes out of the tank and is pumped into the line and pumped into our system here eventually. So it's much more expensive than an ordinary sewer tank. So there is that issue. And then there's the issue of bringing all users of our system under our bylaw. And that's understood as being the way it is. We've been through the bylaw a couple of times to look at that, and Department of Health is it's their recommendation that that's the tool to use to enforce this, and there was some agreement but among the users that would be the way it is. So it's not 100% straightforward, but it is important, and the property has been. The reason it came to us is not the Department of Health found it on their own. It was reported by neighbors that were concerned about the issue, so. We'll meet, but the motion will start the process for the planning and enforcement side of the house to write it, and then we will move forward from there. Questions?
You say it's currently just going to a holding tank?
My understanding is it's going to some type of holding tank on the property, and then occasionally the adjacent property is drained through a hose into the same tank, but it's running above surface. So there's kind of a my layman's terms would be there's kind of a homemade sort of setup design solution that's not considered sanitary by the Department of Health and poses some health risks.
Holding tanks are not allowed anymore, I don't think, at all, what my understanding is. And the reason I think that you're not allowed is that they almost always leak. So. Yes,
Sorry, go ahead.
but
Just so I understand the history, so when the lines were put in, it was optional for people to connect?
I wasn't there doing that, so I'm not sure what exactly happened there.
I just
But
wonder if there
I know
might,
you had to pay by a certain point. And yes, so I wouldn't say that it was optional, maybe, but if you didn't pay, you didn't get
you
a
didn't
tank.
get included.
And if you didn't get a tank, you couldn't use your property because you didn't have way to dispose of the sewage on your property.
So is it possible that there are other people doing the same thing.
I know there are other properties that are not built on that are. That don't have tanks. Or there were when it happened, yes. But if there's nothing on them and they're not using the lot, then.
There's nothing to connect to technically.
Um,
But our bylaw states. That if it runs by your property and you're occupying on that property, you have to be connected to bylaws. And that's what the Department of Health said is like, this is an enforceable bylaw and should not be not connected to. Because of the health risk.
Which side of the road are they on, the lake side or the upland side?
the lakeside. No, you charted them. Oh, I see, the land, yes, it's on the,
My understanding is it's on the lakeside, but well beyond that. I haven't gone up to the physical site myself and talking with the inspector.
Yeah, neither. It should be on the right hand side.
and,
For the primary road, so.
Yeah, so we're not cutting asphalt. We're not cutting the road, there's a lateral to the property line.
but, so the lateral's there.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
we just
no,
supposed to hook
right,
up.
and all we're saying is you must put a tank in. Period.
Hmm.
And, that's, and you have to pay for it, and. Now, there was some discussion around the timeline that Sean and I had to pay, but, the timeline was. We established at 60 days, and that may not be possible to acquire and install in the next 60 days. So that's something else that it could get modified, I guess, in the process.
We'll work through it.
Exactly. Yeah, I think they're not, the asphalt, they're paved isn't an issue, but it's the. I wonder about permitting and stuff like that too, because if you're within.
Yeah.
They're about 30 years, under the Clean Water Act, you know, keep clean water clean, you have to. Get permitting and stuff in place, so yeah, my mind goes to the 60 days thing, but
Well,
it takes a one step at a time.
yeah, the owner is aware that we're moving forward and,
Yeah, the health inspector did mention talking to the property owner. On
Yeah.
location.
we did have a couple that. Had to be added on the Harvey Lake, on the lake roadside. And it was very expensive for them, and it will be. I don't know what those tanks cost, but I know on the Harvey side, it was like 10 or 15,000 to. Put in the pump and get everything installed, so. It's not, it won't be a small. They can choose not to use the lots as well. It's another, so.
And is there was two Civics, is there,
There's two PIDs, two civic numbers, same property owner.
but two systems?
There's my understanding is there's a RV like facility on one lot and it has live active sewage in it. And they drain it by hose over the ground to the tank that's on the other property.
Okay, I see, so
Yeah.
there's no dwelling.
There's no permanent dwelling. I don't know if it's a semi-permanent dwelling, but it's enough for the public of health to say this thing to be in its current state that needs to be connected to that.
So is it one system for the two properties or one per property?
One per property and there's the lateral connections for both.
Unless they choose not to use it,
Yeah.
which they can.
To use it in the current configuration in case it be connected.
Right. Turn it into a tank.
Yeah.
That'll be, once we make, go into the other meeting, and if we make the motion to move forward, then. I just wanted to flag that, those issues for it, because it may come back for another look. That's where we're going through.
As the enforcement officers get into the thick of it, we'll see kind of where it goes.
So, now, questions? Further? HMCC ownership and transition.
Quick update on HMCC. So to provide council with an update, look at my notes here, just a couple of things I wanted to might make sure I didn't miss. Miss Valley has completed the transfer of ownership of the community center that we're sitting in. The transaction officially closed this month, marking a significant milestone as part of the MOU we've had going on between the board and various community engagement sessions the council's gone through throughout this process. And it aligns with the goals we have as it relates to our recreation needs analysis. Quick financial updates: as part of the transaction, the municipality received $50,000 in transfer funds from the HMCC board to go towards the running and operation of this facility. Once HMCC, the board, finalizes its year-end accounting and closes its books, an additional 20 to 40,000 may be forthcoming in addition to the 50,000. To support the smooth compliant closeouts, we have engaged our accounting firm to assist the board in preparing their financial charitable filings, including their closeout of CRA and HST documentation. This step is being completed collaboratively to ensure a clean transition and also to mitigate any future risk to HRCC as part of this transaction. And the remaining $20,000 to $40,000 will be used to cover bills associated with that, close out of like power bills, things like that, to help the board close their books. From an administrative standpoint, we have begun immediate work to stabilize and make short-term improvements to the facility's operations. And our priorities include transferring all active accounts, utilities, vendor billing, conducting initial triage of the building's condition and asset inventory. There are a few things our insurance company did ask us to remediate, which the public works team is working through with our recreations director. Establishing some of the basics of cleaning, maintenance checklists, inspection systems, trying to get those operational elements all in place, purging or disposing of non-functional or outdated items that have accumulated over the years, and coordinating the replacement of the front doors. Installation is scheduled for November, so imminently here, coming up in the next few weeks. And then we're also assessing critical building systems, including fire safety, fire alarms, lighting, heating, security cameras, things of that nature during this period. Picture kind of like a dual track that we're operating on. So the legacy systems, such as the existing heating system, will remain operational. In some cases, we'll improve that. If you notice language in the corridor, we believe the heat pump connected to the heating system has broken. Last year, we didn't have heat there either. So some of that will be remediating in the short term to make things functional and maintain building usability while we design the modern replacements with the forthcoming energy retrofit we've discussed in prior meetings. Related to all those things are funding partnership updates. So we have several complementary funding streams and partnerships that have been secured through the process to support capital and energy efficiency improvements. Most recently, we've negotiated a power partnership with NV Power, and they're giving us a 25% discount on all HMC's related energy fit retro materials, including just the heat pumps in the municipal offices. They give us 25% back on those. And any future things we do, like putting in LED lights like are in this room, as we look at there with some of the lighting, all those will get a 25% rebate from NV Power by just making improvements here in the community center. I mentioned RDC, we did secure that funding. I believe I mentioned for the front doors, so we're going to stack that on the community inclusive community grant. We're also in discussion with the government of Brunswick to do a retrofit of the washrooms here and get a grant from them for that. That would make the washrooms modern and inclusive to the community here on the main floor. And we did get pre-qualification successfully completed with FCM and the Green Municipal Funds. And the next step of that is an energy retrofit study, which then opens us up once we achieve that to then get funding to go do the energy retrofit. So some of those will try where possible to hold off until we open up those new funding streams. The federal funds do take a while to get through. And then where it makes sense and it's more pragmatic, like things like when the doors are just about on their last leg here and breaking. And those ones will pull the trigger and make sure we keep the facility functional and try to leverage some immediate funds like the one we just negotiated with NV Power. Two other things, we do have user meetings underway. We do have what I call power users of the facility that are great partners, longtime users like bowling, badminton, the exercise groups. We're meeting with various stakeholder groups, discussing the supervisor model of the future, like we use in our schools. So we always have someone on the site in the facility to make sure we're maintaining safety, background checks, things of those nature. Fees, grandfathering in the fees that were in existence from the board for those who've signed up like for the next season. But then discussing the future fee schedule and getting input from them. And then discussing access where there will be secure access to the building as part of that supervisor model, and using the inflection point of the new doors to sort of move from the old way of operating the facility to the new way. To make sure we do have a secure building that has, good liability insurance and is defensible from what our insurance companies require. So those are underway now with our recreation director, and expect we'll experience like any change, a few bumps along the way, and we'll work through those, take feedback, and as you hear it, be sure to share that feedback with us as administration, and we'll work through to support the community. And then lastly, but not least, we have filed the conservation easement as part of our agreement with the boards on the building, which maintains this for future generations for public use to support the community. And that's been filed by our lawyer. Those who are involved with S&B, it does take 30 or 40 days to have those things get registered these days, as things are pretty backed up. But that has been done, and fulfilling our obligations as part of the closed documents for the facility, for the community. So. More to come as we get our arms around it. I'd say we're kind of in the crawling, walking phase, and we hope to do in 26 and use more money. But happy as you hear things to take any and all feedback as we look to improve the facility for future community use.
So if you run into questions out there in the community, and Sean hasn't answered them yet, feel free to just give him a call or send him a note, and because I'm certain that as changes occur, the messages may not always get clearly to the right people that in the right way. So could be some a few bumps out there about all of the people that are coordinating activities and want to have access to the building as managers of programs or sort of thing. We'll have to meet all the requirements that everyone else has to meet, so like police checks, that sort of thing that some people will say, why, and I just, those that have asked me today, I've just said because. So that's fine. If you run into anything, CAO and find out that it's a lot, there's a lot has happened in a short period of time, and that's getting ready for winter in this building is number one priority, I guess, right now, so. Any questions? So, the unsightly premises tenders, what do you want to do next?
Yes, we've gone through unsightly premise tenders, that's closed. We do have a recommendation for council. We're recommending for the 4 properties we're looking to address along Route 3 that have been deemed a public health, a public safety risk under the Unsightly Premise Act. We're looking to award those for job remediations to Barry Moorcraft. The 5th property, which was in prior packages, was remediated by the owner, so there's no intervention needed by the municipality, which we're pleased and grateful for. The total of the 4 properties is $100,964. All bids that were submitted were complete, compliant, within the expected ranges of the potential exposure, that some of the basic sizing that the Service Commission gave us. Awarding the site to a single contractor does provide some efficiencies both for the contractor and for us, and the oversight of the Service Commission. But these are all great. The council proposed motions, we have the proposed motion here, and we would like to draw this from our capital reserves. And as a reminder, we need to spend the money and submit to the province by December, and then we get it back in August. So I think it was a non-bearing interest account through the province. And we'll get those funds back. but it's, you know, for the betterment of the community in this case, to make it a little more safe, for our residents in this area.
Hopefully we can continue to cycle that now that we're in the
Yeah.
groove. No questions?
Was there one property that didn't quite meet the requirement?
Yes,
Like
there was
the
one.
50-54?
There was not included in this package, but a prior one, there was one that the building inspectors did go.
But if not, there's not one of these.
It's not one of these ones.
Okay,
One of the ones that was mentioned here was one of the ones that the property owner themselves took care of, which was.
yeah,
the-
3406, yeah.
But the property in the council package is the update that includes that one, Deputy Mayor, but. Off the top of my head, I couldn't recall the exact address. Yeah, but we did have it inspected to ensure.
Yeah, like no one on properties is that the 50-54, it's actually a few buildings together. It's not
Yes.
just one, which is
Yeah.
why I think your price of that.
Yeah,
is
this
significantly
particular,
higher.
yeah. This one has a couple of outbuildings that all need to come down.
Hmm.
The main building doesn't need to come down, but it needs to have the oil tank removed, for environmental risk. It needs a number of other things done to the structure to make it safe and compliant. So it's a pretty complex job.
Yeah, there's like 3 buildings together on that first property.
Further questions? Okay, so we'll move on to amending the bylaw number 2023-06, remuneration of council.
Right, let me get back on track here. So we went through this in a prior update. Excuse me, which is included in it's included in the proposed budget tonight. It's also included in the package, the detailed background report, so I won't go through it all again. I would punctuate it by saying, the council, from the analysis and benchmarking, that we did, Herald Community Councils has paid significantly lower, than every other council like size in our area and throughout New Brunswick. And we put together a plan that, over 4 years for the next council, post-election goes, so going into next year, the next council, through their term would over time get up to the average of like councils, like municipalities by the 4th year. And this bylaw is updating the current remuneration bylaw to outline that. So table has a map, it's all in here and it is accounted for. So it's something in November's council. We'll look for first and second motion or first and second reading by title. So we'll work with the clerk on that. And then in December, we'll finalize it before we go into the new fiscal year.
Questions? It is, when you put it in a bylaw, it takes time to, but that's the right place for it, so.
Yeah.
General operating budget approval. All right, next meeting.
Board up here, so. So to present the final and proposed general operating budget for council approval, incorporating the most recent assessment data, so we do have the assessment data, from the province. And then the tax implications for both, what I would just refer to them, as inside and outside rate. Think of inside as the village where we own streets. And amenities, versus outside where that's managed through the province. The good news on an assessment growth basis is, if you remember, our prior updates had a 3.5% increase to maintain service year over year. Despite the provincial freeze in assessment values, the community experienced a 3% real growth rate year over year. So what that means is this added 527,000 to the local tax base. And that equates to $97,000 roughly in new tax revenues. That means real growth, new houses, new business, new developments throughout the community. That allowed, despite everyone's assessment values being frozen, us to grow at a 3% rate, which is fantastic. That puts us in the best in class for New Brunswick, and you look at the average growth rates for the province. The growth gives additional flexibility in meeting our operating needs without requiring a full mill rate increase that we had originally planned. So it's a better news story than what was our worst case scenario.
So it's 527 million.
Sorry, 527 million. I forgot a couple of zeros there. Thank you. Budget summary. So the proposed general operating budgets, and again, the detailed spreadsheets are in the package. The proposed 2026 operating budget is $3,687,000 and some numbers. This reflects the 3.5 CPI increase across all major expense categories. So in the main, there were some like power and a few different areas that we experienced higher than 3 and some where we experienced low. The one change that I'll point out, it does include our second year previous deficit. We didn't have that number in the prior update, so I just want to point that out. This supports the 5-year capital plan, strategic plan deliverables that we're planning to deliver next year, as well as some future planning for infrastructure. The funding includes HMCC operations under the community halls other. And it continues to invest in the Harvey Fire Department. We shared in prior updates, the fair, poor, very poor, and the asset management plan. And worth pointing out, the command truck that we're replacing next year and the bumper gear upgrades are all included in this, kind of timely with the climate report we were just going over. So the specifics down to the brass tacks, so to speak. So thanks to the additional growth revenue, we're now in a position to less than the required mill rates, as I mentioned. The final proposed rates are, so the outside rates, this includes Manderson, Dumfries, Prince William, Kingsclear, would be 6,096, and that's up from 6,015 last year. So the adjustment keeps pace with the cost of inflation, will minimize resident impact. So factoring in the G&B special levy, also known as a DTI tax, which is 41 cents, so 4115. The total outside rate is 1.0211. And so the quick math, if you're the average homeowner, and this average, I'll use average term loosely, but for a proxy, if you had a home value of $250,000, this represents $1.50 monthly to property tax bills and real costs to your tax bill. But just to give you some rough t-shirt sizing there on what that means to your personal finances. And then the inside rates, this applies to residents inside the village boundaries and reflects the shared service costs unique to the village. So the village total combined rate includes the same shared services, 6,096, but it is higher if you live in the village area with an additional 4683. We do have a few more cost sensitive levers like streetlight and a few things like that we do pay in the village that contributes to that. So that puts the village inside rate at 10778. And then just pull the last couple of years to give a sense of, okay, since amalgamation, where do we sort of plot from the village? Since it is higher than the outside rate. And so we are higher than 2025, which was lower at 10364, but we are lower than both 2023 and 2024. So in the main, it feels like a good financial position considering some of the cost pressures. And I have a few comments in there on some of the drivers of that. So the risk outlook, we don't have the final pleasing costs. Our sources say we should be good with the money that we have in the budget. We do have some operational contingency in the budget, as you know, as we look to maximize our operation reserves as we close out this year. So bar any major swings from the RCMP, we don't expect to come back to council with their final figures. And then so nothing there is when we try to miss anything. So the recommendations that council approved the proposed 2026 general operating budget. We have sat down with the province and reviewed it and got their feedback. Everything balances out from a mill rate standpoint, and they have no issues with how we're thinking about it. We think the budget reflects council's priorities, maintains service levels and supports long-term capital needs and levels growth while keeping tax rates, tax rate increases to a minimum. And then the proposed motion that we will bring to the special meeting if the council agrees.
Well done.
Go through it.
Questions? That's what I said.
Um. At the risk of being wrong. I think when I read your report, well done, by the way, it said operating costs for HFCC to be entirely funded by community halls and others, line, and such. But I don't recall, and I didn't look, honestly. I'm just thinking of the question now, I don't have an answer to it. What does that leave in community halls and others for?
Zero to be zero.
Right, and that was, I think we did discuss
Yes.
that. Okay, good, so,
It-
yeah,
It basically eliminates the grants
right,
at this point,
Mhm.
and, we, yes, it's something that, we have to consider in the future, and had, just, I guess, knowing that we would have to take a look at how we administer any kind of grant going forward.
yeah, I mean, like. Down that road, and I just wanted to make sure that I had grabbed her correctly. My only other question, Sean, is, oh boy, just on communication, I mean, we can't send your report in.
Yeah.
Well, written, but just, not really a question, I should say, it's just a comment to make sure you continue to do good work you've been doing with communicating this, whether it's Lions News or wherever it may be. And then I think the point that if I pulled my head out of this table and just went into landowner enjoyment mode, it would be, okay, well, 3% growth is, like, actual growth is awesome, it's fantastic. It's probably not gonna get me all CPI. It's not unreasonable to expect $40 or $50 this year, but it's the. And I don't know how much detail this group thinks we should go in that sort of communication, but in the building for the capital reserve, operating reserve, strategic growth initiatives in the future. And not purely just capturing costs to do status quo again next year that we had this year. And just how you communicate that in a way that people understand why.
And it's a difficult subject to get people to want to understand. I
Yeah.
guess, you know, so back on the halls, the lion's share on that funding was going to this building. So that way, and we know that, you know, it was 50-some thousand, I believe, in the first or second year, 40 last year, so. And, so it was all falling under our grant line then. So that will be missing in our model this year. But, I guess that's.
We can't do it all.
No.
And this is a big,
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
like,
Just, learning, we may realize. You know, optimistic that we could run this place more efficiently, maybe we meet here, we could reassess and go, hey, we have some availability if we wanted to stand something up, but there's a lot of risk right now. Walking around this building operationally to just get this for the community. Going and in a good place that we feel like it's pretty stable.
you said earlier, like, kind of crawling, walking
Yeah.
up steps, right? And I mean, I think that funding, you're gonna have a lot better idea of a year from now, and probably some efficiencies built in, and I think you might go back and revisit your grant model first before you even do the budget side. But plain and simply, we can't do it all at once, and I think we're, as a group, all more than okay with that, we discussed that. But yeah, just my point of communication, I mean, your report was great, and I think I understood what you were saying when you were talking about strategic priorities and operating reserves and capital. But I don't know that that's as easy for everybody to digest or understand, and just maybe even a couple of examples.
Yeah.
Right, when we're putting this on our website, or whatever.
Okay.
What we did last year was great.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of people come to us and we were say, well, go read this, copy paste.
Yeah, and we'll have that refresh with these figures.
Yeah,
But you gotta be thinking on a few other things we might be able to do too.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll create based off of just learnings from last year, because some of those evolved, if you remember, like, we didn't have that on the website to start.
Yeah.
It was like, as you guys have more questions, or some of you started building up this wiki of knowledge. So we'll start with that same wiki refreshed with this data.
Yeah.
And then and undoubtedly there'll be questions we hadn't anticipated, and then we'll try to, enhance it even more this year.
Yeah, I mean, I can see one being just, there's an assessment freeze. Why is it $1.50 more a month, right? And I mean, you can easily explain that. It's just getting ahead of it might save some time, right?
Yep.
And our funding partners, as that continues to evolve, there may be more opportunities next year for more funding. And, you know, it can be places, as Sean said, during the year that, you know, we don't have it planned, but, you know, if you need to find the 5%, sometimes easier to look at where you are during the year and if someone else has got 95% of it, like, willing to move something forward, so. Was unfortunate for the last couple of years to be able to respond to some of those, and hopefully so will we. Yeah. Overall, though, we're in a very, very healthy financial position, just, we're able to make that transition this year to move into having our operational reserve fund at the beginning of the year is a key piece, and some communities haven't identified that, and they're struggling with something that has to be done. And literally not having the funds to do what has to be done. We're doing a similar exercise at the Capital Region right now. Looking ahead, you're gonna hear about the increase in tipping fees coming down the road. And that's so that there's enough money in the kitty in 2031 to make sure that we're still able to be in a position to borrow enough money to replace all of the things that we know we'll have to replace in 2031 without hitting that 20%. That the province is at 20%, you can't borrow anymore. So it's a balance, and I think we're getting close in another year or two to have a nice balance there so that we're not stressed in that area. So thank you for the question. Any others? Good. That's it. You can have the first adjournment. The motion to adjourn would be in order. Jesse? At the end. All in favor?